Fox News alert, we got him. It took 6 days, a manhunt across state lines, and a grisly discovery inside of a storage facility. The Brown and MIT killer finally found. Claudio Neves Valente, a 48-year-old Portuguese national, was found late last night in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire.
He was found dead with a satchel, with 2 firearms, and evidence in the car that that matches exactly what we see at the scene here in Providence.
Sources tell Fox there were no notes or manifestos, but they found 2 9mm, a bulletproof vest, and the jacket he was wearing at Brown. This was a targeted attack, but in a different way. More on motive later. What we do have is a trail. He flew to Boston, rented a car, here he is at Alamo, and then rented a storage locker in New Hampshire, then went south to Providence and spent weeks casing the university. A custodian told police they'd seen the shooter as early as November, and Brown security cameras even caught him creeping around in early December, but they never released that video. Police have great footage of the shooter walking into the storage facility about an hour after the MIT professor was murdered. When police arrived, they found the rental car that they had been looking out for, a gray Nissan Sentra. They were looking for it because an anonymous tip came in earlier in the week. It was a Reddit post. The police need to look into a gray Nissan with Florida plates, possibly a rental. It was parked in front of the little shack. I know because he used his key fob to open the car, approached it, and then something prompted him to back away. When he backed away, he relocked the car. I found that odd. Investigators didn't know what to make of this. It wasn't until police found that second person they were looking for. He was the one who wrote it. This guy wasn't just a random on the internet. He actually got into a little scuffle with the gunman just hours before the shooting.
He's a former Brown University student who grew suspicious of the gunman when he locked eyes with him in the bathroom just 2 hours before the shooting inside the Barris and Holly building. He followed Neves Valente out of the building before the shooting and played a game of cat and mouse in the neighborhood. Surveillance video shows Neves Valente running away from John. At one point, he stood just feet away from the gunman and questioned why he was circling the block. The gunman repeatedly responded, quote, "Why are you harassing me?"
It turns out he wasn't just a former Brown student. The guy was homeless and living inside of the building that was shot up. John was just walking around when he locked eyes with the suspect. We learned about it last night.
According to my law enforcement officials, is being identified as a homeless person who was living in or around that Brown University building that we're all talking about at Barris and Holly, graduated from Brown University at 2010, had a confrontation with the shooter before the shooting itself happened.
This homeless eyewitness blew open this whole case. From there, they ran the plates, picked up the suspect's car at least 14 times in the vicinity around December 1st, and the car pinged at Brown the morning of the shooting and then was spotted outside of the home of the MIT professor right before he died. And the last ping led investigators to the Salem storage facility where they recovered the car and found the gunman dead. Now, this is just in. The New York Times is reporting that the autopsy showed Valente died from a gunshot wound to the head and an apparent suicide on Tuesday. So one of the biggest murder mysteries in the country was solved thanks to a homeless guy who lived at the scene of the crime. Did Brown University know there was a homeless graduate living in the engineering building? If they did know, why didn't they send investigators to interview him? If they didn't know a homeless guy was living in the engineering building, then that's a massive security breach. I'm not sure what's worse, them knowing or not knowing. We hope homeless John gets the 50 G's because he deserves the reward. Isn't it interesting that the public helped crack this case? Because for a week, investigators were yelling at the public.
You know, again, I think it's just a really dangerous road to go down. It's just a dangerous thing to do. And I would leave it to us to identify persons of interest and let us run them down.
Leave it to you. You arrested the wrong man. You arrested a white veteran when you should have been looking for a Portuguese national. Investigators had no leads until someone posted something about a car online.
I also want to be very clear about something else. Criminal investigations are grounded in evidence, not speculation or online commentary. The endless barrage of misinformation, disinformation, rumors, leaks, and clickbait were not helpful in this investigation.
Not helpful? Thank God someone posted something online, or else we'd still be looking for the killer. Police should be grateful witnesses and tips came in from the public, not attack them for trying to help when it was the police who arrested an innocent man, wasting precious time. Now let's look at motive. Why shoot up a school and a random professor? Well, we learned yesterday that Valente was a former Brown student and was very familiar with that building.
During his time at Brown, Nuevis Valente was enrolled only in physics classes. The majority of physics classes at Brown have always been held within the Barris and Hawley classrooms and labs. So I think it's safe to assume that this man, when he was a student, spent a great deal of time in that building for classes and other activities.
Valente came here on a student visa in the year 2000 from Portugal. He spent a year at Brown, took a little leave, and then dropped out. Former classmates told the Post that Valente whined that the Ivy League school's food was lousy and the classes were too easy. They remember him complaining about the quality of the school's fish. They say Valente had a dark side and bullied classmates, called one a slave because he was from Brazil. Someone remembers having to break up a fight. Another classmate remembers Valente struggling academically at Brown and remembers him being quiet. It appears that Valente's target wasn't a student, it was the university itself. Detectives recovered 44 shell casings at the scene of the crime. 15 of them were in the hallway. 29 were inside the auditorium. Investigators believe the shooter entered from the back or the top of the room and was walking down the stairs, firing as students ducked behind the teacher's desk. Police still can't tell us what he yelled.
There are some witnesses who said he said nothing. There are some that say he made a barking noise. Don't ask me. I don't know why.
So if he finished his target, Brown, why drive 90 minutes north to shoot a random MIT professor in Massachusetts? It turns out it may have been personal. Valente and the MIT nuclear scientist, Nuno Loureiro, who was also Portuguese, knew each other back in Portugal.
Mr. Valente was a physics student. Also, we know that the MIT, the victim there, was in that discipline as well.
Did you go to school with a professor? Did you go to school with a professor? We tell if you recognize that.
It is believed that in Lisbon, that those two individuals attended the same university in Portugal.
So these two went to the same school in Portugal and were around the same age. Our Portuguese producer has been reading through the Portuguese press and was able to learn that Valente was fired from his teaching position at that university back in 2000, right before he went to Brown. So Valente's promising career never materialized, while his colleague went on to MIT, becoming a star in the world of physics, mastering cutting-edge fusion technology. A former Portuguese colleague who knew both of them says Valente also had the great need to stand out and show that he was better than the rest. And people thought he was arrogant. So the motive appears to be jealousy, revenge, grievance, but that's just primetime speculating. Heaven forbid we go down any dangerous roads. So what was he doing for 25 years after he dropped out of Brown? One source says Valente returned to Portugal to become a computer scientist and then re-entered the United States on a diversity lottery visa in 2017. Not on merit, but on a diversity lottery visa. And now 3 people are dead. Why are we running our immigration system like a game of Russian roulette? Don't know. But Trump just ended the diversity lottery program. Since getting his green card, he's had addresses pop up in Miami, Vegas, and Boston. His Miami neighbors say they've never seen him And when reporters went to the door, someone else was living there and had never heard of him. So the address could have been fake. We're also hearing he may have had offshore accounts.
This is something like out of a James Bond film where he had offshore bank accounts. He had credit cards that were not in his name. He was very cautious. You could see that the way Claudio was making his way around the Brown campus. So he had credit cards not in his name. He actually had not only offshore bank accounts, but I've been told a large amount of money in these offshore bank accounts.
Interesting. When he returned to Brown about a month ago, he was spending a lot of time casing the campus. But for some reason, the Brown University president won't admit there was a security failure.
Video played a big role in this case. The neighbor's video, the rental car video, but not the video from the building that he walked in freely both before when he got in a confrontation and when he came back in and decided to kill people. You didn't have cameras in that building, just say it, so we could get this over.
I do not think a lack of cameras in that building it had anything to do with what happened there.
Brown did invest in state-of-the-art cameras so students could live stream lectures from their beds, but didn't invest in proper security cameras. The storage unit in New Hampshire had better cameras than Brown. A school with a 65-person security team and a $7 billion endowment. The school has no excuses.
The Brown campus saw 20 rapes in 2023. 20 rapes in 2023 and 10 in 2024. That's a total of 30. And yet, this building was completely unsecure, no cameras, no key card access, and on a day when the building was hopping, no security guard. You got to really ask yourself how it is that we could say video wouldn't help here when, of course, everybody was trying to ascertain who this guy was and what he looked like coming in.
30 rapes in 2 years on a single campus? What the hell is going on up at Brown? And the homeless live in their buildings? Totally unacceptable. I don't know how they can explain it. Congress is calling on the Brown president to testify. It seems very clear to me that the president of Brown University will need to be hauled in front of Congress for a hearing under oath.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.